What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're covering 5 things that's going to help you with your 1.5 mile run. As always then, before we get into it, make sure you like and subscribe down below. Let's talk a little bit about the 1.5 mile itself then. So it was used on the PRMC in the Royal Marines for a long time, and it's used around the military for a little bit of a fitness test. It's now been taken out of the 3-day course to become a Royal Marine. However, when you get to training, you'll also be tested in it, and it's good to have a decent time in the 1.5 mile to be able to take with you to CTC or wherever you're going. Why should you listen to me then? Good question. So I got 8:13. I'm a 1.5 mile run on PRMC, and I came first out of 50 people. Not to boast, but that's why I know what I'm talking about.
Look at him showing off. Who's he trying to impress?
Anyway, straight into the list. So number 1, don't ignore zone 2. So if you don't know what zone 2 is, zone 2 work is basically anything that hits the heart rate of 60% of your max heart rate to 75% of your max heart rate. Easiest way to work this out is just take 180 minus your age from that number, and that gives you your aerobic ceiling, so the top of your aerobic zone. So for me, I'm 25 years old, 180 minus 25, 155 beats per minute is going to give me the top of my aerobic zone. So anytime I'm doing any zone 2 work, I need to ensure that my heart rate doesn't exceed 155 beats per minute. Now a lot of people do miss this out with their 1.5 mile training because they think 1.5 miles is a short event, okay, 8, 10, 12 minutes, I shouldn't need anything longer than that. However, what zone 2 does give you is a lot of aerobic efficiency, and it means that you are getting more for less output. So if you can run 45 minutes at an 8-minute mile pace and stay in zone 2, that means when we go faster into that 1.5 mile test, it's not going to be as much of a tax on the heart and lungs, and we can then go faster and faster and faster and get eventually a better time. I'll talk a little bit about speed work and VO2 max sort of work in a little bit. However, best way to describe what your aerobic base is think about a pyramid. So the base of the pyramid is your aerobic base, that's your zone 2 work, and the peak of your pyramid is your speed work. So we need to be wide and tall in terms of our pyramid. If it's just really tall with loads of speed work, then it's going to topple over, and if it's just really wide with no speed stuff, then obviously we're not going to have any second gear to get into when we need to push. Number 2 then, arguably more important than number 1, is what gets measured gets improved. So we need to be testing ourselves. So make sure we're testing the 1.5 mile run, and then we're doing a block of work, so 8 weeks, 10 weeks work, and then we're testing it again. If we don't know where we're starting at, it's very difficult to know whether we've improved, or it's very difficult to know how to pace in terms of that second test because we don't have any feedback to go off in that initial period. A couple of important points when you are testing the 1.5 mile run is to make sure you're testing it in a recreatable environment. So what I mean by that just means somewhere nearby that you can go to again and test it that second time. What you don't want to be doing is testing it on a treadmill and retesting it on the road, or testing it on a really hilly route and retesting it on a flat route. That kind of thing. It's not going to give an accurate representation where you're at both times. Make sure that we're doing exactly the same route the one time and exactly the same route the second time. A lot of people will miss out the testing phase because they think, I can just estimate where I'm at. That's no good, okay? We need accurate numbers in order to go off those paces when we get into the interval work that I'm going to go into shortly. So make sure you test it, make sure it's a good representation of your current fitness level, and then you can go off that and pace the intervals that we're going to get into accordingly. And it means that when you test again, you are in a good place to know whether you've improved, how much you've improved by, all those kind of things you can boast when you show off on Strava. Number 3 then, getting into the workouts we need to be doing for the 1.5 mile time to come down, warm up and cool down running. So this is the way I program my speed stuff and my tempo stuff. I'll always make sure I've got a warm up run and a cool down run for a couple of reasons, okay? It's sneaky zone 2 first of all, so linking back to our first point, the zone 2 work. Obviously it's boring to go out and just do really low heart rate, really low intensity, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour. What we need to make sure is we're accumulating zone 2 work across the week. So yes, we can have one run that's 30, 45 minutes at zone 2, but also if we have a mile or a kilometre before our tempo runs or our speed runs, it means that we're getting zone 2 work in around that as well. So it means we're adding to that base building that I've talked about. The other thing then is pre-fatigue, okay, and emulating the circumstances we're going to find when we actually get to CPC and that 1.5 mile gets tested, or rather than CPC, when you get to training and you're testing your 1.5 mile. You'll never do a 1.5 mile in isolation where you just get set off from the blocks. You'll always do a 1.5 mile warm-up and then a 1.5 mile return to test. So it makes sense to train a little bit like that. So you're going to train to do a warm-up, a kilometre, a mile, go into your main set, so your main set of intervals, and then do a cool down run. All that means is we're not surprised when you've got to do a little bit of running first, rest a bit, and then test yourself and go high heart rate. Another reason I like to do it this way is it means we're not just going out the door, doing a couple of leg swings, and then going straight to 180 heart rate, straight away, max chat. The heart and lungs aren't going to know what's fucking hit them there. The legs are going to feel heavy. Nothing's going to feel like it's flowing. That first interval or those first 2 intervals are going to feel really, really bad if you go and do that. What it allows you to do by doing a kilometre build and then a little break and then going straight into your intervals is your heart rate's already elevated, your legs are already turning over, you're already kind of used to the movement of running, and then we're getting into our main set, and the first interval, second interval is going to feel a lot better. Fourth point then, this is getting into the juicy stuff. This is the workouts we need to be accumulating. So speed work is the first thing. So anything under 800 meters is going to constitute speed work. So 200, 400, 600, up to 800 meters. That's going to be your speed work. 800 meters not going to take you really longer than 4 minutes. Okay, so thinking about that time domain, we're going to go from about a minute to 4 minutes. That's where we're going to be looking at. In terms of the paces we need to hold for this links back to our second point where we've got to test things. So we know what pace we're running at for the 1.5 mile run. We can then take that into our speed work. So say we're doing a 4x400 meters, we can run those 400 meter efforts at our 1.5 mile pace. This always confuses people, so I'll explain it a little bit. So if your 1.5 mile is 9 minutes, you're running a 6-minute mile. From there, you can extrapolate that into your workout. So your workout being 4x400 meters, those 400 meter efforts should be done at a 6-minute mile. So that 400 meters will take you 1 minute 30. What did he say? If you're that person. If it takes you a different amount of time, obviously do your own maths and then take it into your own workout. What that does is every time that makes your 400 meters appropriate for your fitness level. This is what we do in my running program, in my academy. We scale everything to make sure that it's at your level. Another thing we need to do when we're building out these workouts that are our 1.5 mile building workouts for speed, we need to make sure the total distance equates to further than 1.5 mile or 2.4 kilometers. So the example I used before probably wasn't a good one. 4x400 meters is clearly 1600 meters. That's not quite far enough, so we'd have to go 6x400 meters or 4x800 meters, that kind of thing, making sure the total distance is more than the 1.5 mile. Next thing I want to talk about with speed stuff then is ratio rest periods. You might have heard 1-to-1 rest, 1-to-2 rest. What does all that mean? Okay, I'll explain. So 1-to-1 rest just means we're going to be resting as long as we were working for. So if we take the 400 meter example, we would do a 400 meters in 90 seconds. We would then rest 90 seconds. That's 1-to-1. What I like to do with speed work is make sure that we're resting at least 1-to-1 or even a little bit less. So on my 400 meter example, I would do 90 seconds 400 meters and then 90 seconds rest, that's 1-to-1, or I'll go 90 seconds 400 meters and 75 seconds rest, 60 seconds rest, that kind of thing. We're building our fitness, we're making sure the body and the legs can recover in a quick amount of time to repeat that effort in the same pace or the same time again and again and again and again, building that fitness for the 1.5 mile run. Okay, last but not least then, number 5, we've got tempo work. Okay, this is going to be your 5 to 9 minute efforts at a slightly slower pace than your 1.5 mile run, namely your 5 kilometer pace. This is again why we need to test things, because we need to test our 5k, test our 1.5 mile, probably test your 1k or something, so you've got a really good range of things that you've tested. I would like to do 5 to 9 minute efforts at your 5k pace, repeating those for around 30 to 40 minutes of total running. Clearly, if we're looking to run the 1.5 mile in 9 or 10 minutes, which is a really good time, what we're doing when we're building towards a 9-minute effort, resting, going 9 minutes again, resting 9 minutes again, it gets the body used to working really hard for that amount of time. We're then resting, we're going again, resting, going again. In the actual test, it's going to feel a lot easier because all we've got to do is do that once, and we've got to send it once for 9 minutes. The other thing this is doing, if we're going 5, 6, 7 minutes and resting a couple of minutes, then going again, resting a couple of minutes, going again, it's building that lactate tolerance, okay? So obviously when we're running and we're getting tired, certainly if we're running at high heart rates, so at sort of 70% plus of our max heart rate, we're accumulating lactate in the muscle. That's what makes you stop and slow down when you start to think about a 10k or a 5k effort and you're getting past that 15-minute point and you start to feel the burning sensation in your lungs and your burning sensation in your legs. That's lactate building up. What these kind of sessions do is make you a lot more efficient at removing that lactate from the muscle, and therefore we can go faster for longer, essentially. The final point on tempo runs then is I quite like to use them as recovery runs in between. So if we've got a 5-minute effort, we're going to recovery run for 2 minutes and then go 5-minute effort again. This is kind of fartlek training, but I like to use that because it means the body's then recovering while it's still moving through the movement of running, rather than doing your effort, resting, doing your effort, resting. I think that has a good place in speed work, so in point number 4. But in tempo work, I quite like to use a running recovery in order to get the legs back to where they need to be to run again. Okay, so there's your 5 points then. Don't ignore your zone 2. Make sure you test yourself. What gets measured gets improved. Warm up and cool down running for your sneaky zone 2. Okay, so we don't have to just spend hours pounding the pavement at low heart rates. No one wants to be doing that, okay? 4, speed work, and 5, tempo work to get that lactate tolerance in for the muscles. I hope that's helped you then. If you can take all of those points, put them into a training plan, and then you'll be PRing your 1.5 mile run in no time at all. If you want me to do it for you, I have loads of training plans that will do this. So running program, military prep program, and military academy will all be linked in the description below. Make sure you check them out if you're looking to improve your fitness in terms of running or your just general strength and body weight strength. All of those things are included in all of those programs. Top link in the description will be my military preparation seminar day. We're running this on the 22nd of July in Birmingham, so make sure you show up to that. And last thing then, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.